Okay, so everyone knows that we're recording, and folks will probably be joining us in the next couple minutes, but I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen and we'll do introductions here in just a moment. It may take just a moment for the slides to load. Great. Can you all see that? I see a couple nodding faces. Is it small or is it full screen for you? I want you to be able to read the font.
It's big.
Great.
It's
Perfect.
full screen.
Excellent. I have resorted to readers, so I'm well aware of the fact that many of us college-age parents or parents of college-age students need to have graphics in large enough font to be able to read. My name is Rachel, and I am the one who is behind most of the communications that you get from the alumni and family engagement team. I get to work with parents here of current students, and it's just a joy. It's one of my favorite parts of the job. And we have put together this presentation for you. In a moment, I'm going to let Emilee introduce herself, but I will let you know that we sent out an email to parents and family members of students that have current senior standing here at Whitworth. Some of them may be walking and possibly graduating this May. Some of them may have another semester or a year to go. And we really weren't sure how many people we would hear back from. And we were pleased, very pleased actually, to find that about 25, 30 people responded with interest in learning more about the process for supporting their student through the graduation application process and the commencement event. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to move forward to kind of an overview so I can let you know a little bit more what to expect from this meeting. I always like to know what my next hour is going to look like, and we will have a hard stop at 1 o'clock if it takes us that long. But please do feel free to post questions in the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat window, and also just pipe up. Both Emilee and I are happy to be interrupted with questions that are related to these topics. So again, my name is Rachel. I am a Whitworth alum from the class of 1997. And about 18 months ago, I came back here. So this is my second academic year as a staff member. And I have two students who have graduated from Whitworth in the last couple years. One, I'll tell you that story here in a moment, was a little bit more of a challenging, she had her own unique path that as all of you as parents understand, when your student is launching, it's a family affair. They don't live in a bubble. They don't live in isolation. And then my second daughter, she graduated this last May. And then my oldest ended up marrying a Whitworth alum. So we're a growing Whitworth family. I have a daughter who's currently deciding which school she's going to attend, and we're at least at the top of her list. So that's a good sign too. And so now I'll turn it over to Emilee. And Emilee, if you want to introduce yourself and your role here at Whitworth.
Yeah, my name is Emilee Langbehn Bosh. I am also an alum of Whitworth from the early 2000s. This is my 11th year working on commencement and my 9th as the director of our ceremonies. I work in our registrar's office. I'm based in the registrar's office in academic affairs, and this is my favorite part of my job. I love planning the ceremonies, and I love getting to celebrate our students as they kind of do the culmination of our mission, that they are heading out into the world. We are equipping them and sending them out to go honor God and follow Christ and serve humanity. And so this is my favorite part, to watch them cross that stage and physically head out.
Can I put you on the spot just real briefly? You told me the other day about two moments that are defining moments for you that kind of bookend your year here at Whitworth, your academic year. Can you describe those for me,
Yeah.
for us?
Yeah. So, um, I always say I have two favorite days at Whitworth, and the first one is move-in day. So normally late August or early September. You've all been through that. There's those students move in, first year students move in on a Saturday morning. And so I always try to come to campus. I try to leave my house really early, like as the sun is coming up. And I try to get on campus just as the sun is poking over the horizon. And I like to walk on campus through the front entrance and kind of stand there and watch. Often, if it's a nice day, the mist is kind of rising off of the loop. I like to walk through that front entrance, just like so many of our students do that day. And I think about how many people are about to start what is a really incredible and growing journey. And often for them, perhaps the first time they're taking flight. And then the flip side of that is that during every undergraduate commencement ceremony, which is the last ceremony we hold every year, I walk to the top of the Pine Bowl, and there's a little tunnel that comes out from the top of the stands. And I like to stand at the very top, and just look at the whole thing. I like to see all 5,000 people, and I like to see all the grads with their caps decorated and where they're seated. And I like to just to remember that's why I'm here. That's why I want to be here, is that we're called to this big, great mission to welcome students in and then to send them out into the world. And so those are my two bookends that help remind me why we're here, and why our students matter so much, and why we love the 4 years or the 3 years or the 2 years we get with them. But the ultimate goal is for us to send them out and launch them into the world to change the world.
Thanks. I appreciate that so much. I am probably going to adopt one or both of those practices throughout my year here too. All right. So we gave some introductions about who we are, and then I'm just going to reflect on actually the main reason that this idea even occurred to me to have this as a topic for one of our parent and family virtual parent and family forums. Typically, I try and have the subjects be focused on parents, regardless of what class their student is in. But I have a very vivid memory. It was probably early May of 2021. And Emilee will vouch for the fact that commencement 2021 was unlike any other commencement in the history of Whitworth. It was the first commencement ceremony immediately following the pandemic shutdown. And I learned last week that Whitworth sort of led the way regionally in the state opening up the campus for the commencement ceremony. There was many contingency plans for weather, for if there were changes in mask mandates and so forth. So 2021 was already an interesting year for a student to be graduating. But I remember where I was when I got the call from my daughter when she said, "Mom, I don't know if I'm going to be graduating." And we had reservations, we had plans to come over here, our whole family. Even though we couldn't all be at the ceremony because of social distancing, we had plans with grandparents and siblings, and we'd even made arrangements for the dog. And there was this sudden, "What do you mean you don't know if you're going to graduate?" And it was at that moment that I realized that graduation and walking in the ceremony, like those were confusing to me. How come you were allowed to get your cap and gown and you're in the program, but we don't know if you're going to graduate? What does that actually mean? I have a feeling, I'm pretty sure actually my first conversation with Emilee was as a parent calling the registrar's office saying, "What in the world's going on?" We thought our daughter was on her way to successfully completing this year. As a sign of true resilience, my daughter had to retake a class, and she also had to work with a coordinator here on campus to do an internship for her degree that followed the actual ceremony that she was allowed to walk in, and she eventually did graduate, but it was not in 2021. And the feeling as a parent of, what did I miss? What did I not help them kind of like have a heads up for, or how did I not have the right questions to kind of help my students, who in our situation already struggled with some of the kinds of responsibilities of like maintaining her schedule and her life. Um, why? How did I drop that ball? And we all know that our students are becoming adults. And so where is that line between them having personal responsibility and also us not being sure if they've got all the tools to take that personal responsibility? And in our case too, the shutdown with the COVID pandemic kind of played a role in that handoff of that baton being very clumsy. So that stirs a lot of feelings for me. And it occurs to me that there may be parents that have a lot of feelings around the commencement ceremony. I, however, don't want to make the assumption that all of you are here because of that. You may truly be here mostly just because you want to know what the schedule is going to be like for commencement weekend. So I'm going to do my very first poll in Teams, and I'm going to ask actually why you're here. Your responses will be anonymous, but this will give us a chance to kind of see what was the inspiration for you signing up for this hour conversation with us. Are you able to see that poll? Can you all see that poll? Okay. I think if you go ahead and you can select more than one box, but I think most of us have a primary reason. Um, I can't tell. I've got 3 responses. Give a couple more minutes. There we go. Great. Are you able to see the responses in real time too? Can you see very cool. That's a cool tool. I like it. All right, so that's helpful. Commencement planning weekend, we are definitely going to have the conversation about what commencement weekend looks like, but we will also address some of the ways that we can help support our students through this process. Okay. So that's a slide with the poll questions for the recording for those who aren't in the live session and didn't have a chance to respond to the poll themselves. Are you here so that you can learn about commencement weekend? You have maybe a gut feeling that your student might have missed a deadline, or they have a history of maybe missing deadlines, and you want to make sure that you can kind of help support them in that. And then your student might not be walking this year at all, but you want to help them kind of get in front of any of the deadlines that are coming up in the next year to prepare for graduation and commencement. All right, now I will stop talking and I'm going to let Emilee share about the difference between graduation and commencement, which I learned maybe the hard way.
Yeah. So often the terms graduation and commencement are used interchangeably, but we do like to distinguish between them to help families understand what we're talking about with our students when we talk about graduation versus commencement. So the simple definitions are that graduation is actually the conferral of the degree. It's when the student has met all of the core requirements to earn a degree from Whitworth, and we officially give a degree, which is actually very boring. And in the back end of our student information system, it's not an exciting process at all. It's a lot of saving and clicking. But that is when a student graduates, when all of their degree requirements are complete and we officially click that in the back of the system. Commencement is the exciting part, and that's the ceremony where they get to walk. And we ceremonially recognize that they are either planning to complete a degree or have completed their degree during that academic year. And so graduation can technically happen 365 days a year. It's the day that everything gets met. Commencement is just one day a year, and we use that one day to celebrate all of the students who have completed or are planning to complete their degree during that academic year. And an academic year at Whitworth runs fall through summer. And so it restarts every fall. So this year in May, we will celebrate graduates who have completed or are planning on completing their degrees from September 2024 through August 2025. If there's any questions, I'm open to questions. Hopefully that is clear. You're on mute, Rachel.
Thanks. I've broken this down by deadlines and events that occur before Commencement Weekend, because Commencement Weekend is a fairly packed couple days, but there are events that happen throughout the year. I've only included one event on here, the senior class Christmas party, that I am aware of, that the person that is hired through our student government for the senior class coordinator position, that she coordinates or he coordinates. This year they had a Christmas party off site, and it sounds like it was a lot of fun. But I am fairly confident that each year that type of schedule can change. It depends a little bit on the budget and the priorities of each individual class, how they want to do their student-initiated, student-led events. The items here in red are actual deadlines for this particular academic year. If somebody is watching this video in the future, those deadlines are going to be published on our academic calendar, which are always available online. But can you talk a little bit about that graduation application deadline? I know it's passed, but Emilee, you can kind of tell a little bit about the process.
Yeah, so anyone receiving a degree from Whitworth actually has to have a graduation application on file. So they have to apply to get their degree. And that's their official way of saying, I am planning on finishing my degree, and it gets them in the queue for us to be making sure that things are on track and watching them. That application is also the way that they RSVP for our commencement ceremonies at Whitworth. So each fall, the graduation application opens online for students, and they have traditionally about a 2-month period of time to apply for graduation. That's their way of saying, I'm planning to complete my degree this academic year, and I would like to walk, or I don't want to walk in the commencement ceremony. So that is long past, obviously. Any student who is planning on being done this year and who has wanted to walk has already taken care of all of those steps.
Or people who may have students who will be returning in the fall, do you expect that the graduation application will probably be close to November 25th, somewhere in that November, end of November time range?
Yeah, we traditionally kind of will bump that around based on what's happening internally at the university, but students will always have multiple months to apply, and they will receive, as long as they're a senior and as long as they have an anticipated completion date within that academic year, they'll receive a number of reminders to apply and make sure that they're on track.
Do those reminders just come from the registrar's office or from their advisors? Like who is responsible for helping get that information out?
They often come a variety of ways. They come directly from the registrar's office. Many of our advisors are regularly communicating about that with students. Students sometimes will tell each other, right? They'll remind each other that it's coming up. But they do receive quite a bit of email communication. And then I know a number of our advisors also check in with them during regular advising meetings because they'll be aware of the deadlines looming too.
Speaking of a number of email communications, the next deadline for ordering regalia, I understand that not all students maybe got the memo immediately. What were some of the ways that the registrar's office and the commencement team communicated about that deadline?
Yeah, students, depending on when they placed their order, they received anywhere They may have received up to 10 emails from the commencement team or their academic evaluator or the registrar's office about meeting that deadline and placing their regalia order. And then if they still hadn't placed it in the final 2 weeks, they actually received a personal phone call reminding them to get that done.
Great. That deadline was last Friday, so it has come and gone, and my understanding is it's not a flexible deadline. We already have one of the most delayed responses for ordering regalia compared to other universities our size. So if your student did not order their regalia for this commencement service or ceremony, which we actually think that that all of you are in the clear from what I understand. If that didn't happen though, that is a conversation that I'm going to just direct back to the commencement team. How about that?
Yes, yes.
All right. Picking up regalia is I have it down as a deadline because there is a very defined window on May 1st. We have something that we have renamed the senior celebration. It's over at what Whitworth refers to as Hawthorne House. If you were a student here in the past, or if were part of the Whitworth community at some point in the past, you may think of it as the President's House. It has a beautiful lawn and a really lovely backyard area where, assuming the weather is good on May 1st, which it usually is, we will have the regalia distribution or pickup there. And then we'll have other kinds of activities. There's, I believe this year we're going to have our interim provost. He's going to be serving hot dogs, and there'll be fun prizes that the senior class, they'll do a raffle prize, including for potentially for some commencement tickets if you have an extra large party and you're hoping your student can snag a couple extra tickets for the commencement ceremony. It is a really fun event, and we have a photo booth there too, where we hire a professional photographer to come in and take candid shots, but shots of these students who are just getting their caps and gowns for the first time. So make sure that if your student hasn't mentioned that they need to make an arrangement to pick up their cap and gown, that you just maybe ask, like, do you happen to know when you're supposed to get your cap and gown? It's a fairly small window of time. It's, I think we're hosting it from like 4 to 6, somewhere in that range. Emilee, do you remember the exact hours? It's evening.
I don't. I know there's always a question for like our mid-year graduates or our student teachers or potentially our varsity athletes who might be on the road traveling about, oh, if my student can't physically make it, what should they do? Your students will get lots of emails again about coming to the event and picking up their cap and gown. And they also get an option to designate another senior to pick up their stuff for them if they'd like. Because they've paid for this, we won't just hand it off to anyone. So we do ask them to just prearrange. That pre-arrangement is really easy. It's just a quick email response to one of the emails they've gotten about the event where they say, this is Emilee. I graduated in December and I'm not going to be able to make it back. But my friend Rachel, who's also graduating, is going to be there and she'll grab my stuff. And we modify their checkout list and we check their ID to make sure it's really the designated pickup person. And then they can take their cap and gown for them.
And one thing I like to remind students, but family members as well, is that I have 2 roles. One is that I work with parents and families, but I also work with alumni. And our office really works hard to approach your students as future alumni of Whitworth University. And this particular event, the senior celebration, is our sort of first glimpse of for the student actually of what it's like to be part of the alumni community. So we're also going to be doing some education by passing out flyers and things like that about what some of their benefits are as alumni when they leave the institution. And we're kind of part of helping celebrate them, not just as graduating seniors, but as our very soon to be alumni. All right. Commencement ticket distribution. What does that look like? Is that all virtual or is there a physical element?
Yeah, all of our tickets are digital tickets, and your student will get them via email in a separate email for every ticket. So it'll say like Emilee Bosh ticket 1, Emilee Bosh ticket 2, and so on and so forth. That'll be what the email will say. And that way it's easy distribution. They can just forward those emails along, they can screenshot it and text it, or they can physically print it out and hand it to someone. All of the tickets are a QR code, and they are individually numbered and linked so that when you and your family and your guests come in, they will have that QR code, and our gate attendants will scan it and send your family in. So those emails, we wait to send out those tickets until the week before. And the reason for that is because your students have a lot on their mind in those final weeks, whether it's stressing about finals or it's just having a really good time being with their friends for the last time all together in this space. And so we have learned that waiting until that final week, typically it's Monday, but sometimes it takes until Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what's going on, they will get all those emails and tickets on that week so that it's fresh in their mind and they know to get it to everybody. Then if it sends before that, it tends to get lost in their email, and we want to avoid that.
And can family members count on a certain number of tickets so that they're not worried that that number could change when that email comes out?
Yeah, you should definitely check with your student for sure. Every graduate, all of Whitworth's commencement ceremonies, we always say that students get 6 guest tickets. That's the base no matter what. This year, we were lucky to have quite a few extra tickets available, and we ran a lottery on Monday, and most students received 10 guest tickets total for the ceremony. So most students received an additional 4 tickets. But double check with your student. It would have been an email from commencement@whitworth.edu, and it would have come through on Monday night. And that's their official number of tickets.
And what if they don't need all of the tickets that they're allocated?
Yeah, then we would really encourage students to share with each other. We watch it happen every year. That's another nice part about having digital tickets is they can easily share them with each other. So if your student only needs 6 or they only need 8, we encourage them to take those last 2 or 4 tickets or whatever they have and send them along to a friend whose family is maybe looking for additional tickets. That's a great way to do that. And on the flip side, if your family needs more tickets than your student's been allotted, have them ask around. We have never had every single ticket used. So we know there are students who may not need them all and would be willing to share. But we don't facilitate that trade. We want the students to work with one another to ask and obtain what they need or share what they don't need.
Perfect. Okay, moving on. So commencement weekend, it starts for many people on Friday of commencement weekend. So in this case, Friday, May 16th. Your student may have finals that they're still taking that day, depending on their finals schedule. And there's move out happening on campus, out of the residence halls. There's still lots going on during the week leading up to commencement. But I know that unofficially there are lots of activities that are happening on Friday evening. There may even be something happening in your student's department. They may have decided to have an exhibition. Like my daughter was an art student, and on Saturday morning of commencement weekend, they had a senior exhibition where you could come in and see their art displayed, and they had a little reception around that. So there may be events that are not university-wide. They may be the household that your student is living in. If they're, renting an apartment or something off campus, maybe they and their roommates want to have a family party, or maybe you've made reservations, or they want to make reservations for a favorite restaurant here in Spokane. Go down to Riverfront Park. There's lots of options on Friday. Whitworth used to in the past, so if some of you have had students who graduated from here before or heard in the past, we used to have 4 different activities over the course of commencement weekend. We have combined elements of one of those or a couple of those events and sort of split them out between the first 2 that you see listed here. So senior showcase and the baccalaureate and commissioning events have elements of that 4th event that we've kind of absorbed into those current events. And the reason for that was because one of the events occurred on Friday night, and we wanted to make sure that families really had the opportunity to do what was a priority to their student. And sometimes people are still coming into town at that point in time. So Senior Showcase, that's kind of our kickoff, and it's fairly late in the day on Saturday. The beauty of a 4 o'clock time slot and the fact that we limit that. We're very careful about limiting the time that we're together to 90 minutes, and it's not going to go over that 90-minute mark. It's a really fun opportunity to come to Coles Auditorium, which is our performing arts center here right on campus, and it's a really sweet space, and you get to see some talent show elements. There's some we're going to be giving out some awards depending on if it's coming from academic affairs, the alumni office. We also have an award that we give to students. These are students that have been nominated by faculty, staff, and the Whitworth community as exemplars of the Whitworth spirit. And there's also just it's reflections. So we used to have something called Senior Reflections. It is now a time for us to hear these pairs of faculty or staff up front with a student reflecting on their experience of helping shape and form one another over their time here at Whitworth. So that's Senior Showcase. It's 4 o'clock. We get out in plenty of time for people to make dinner reservations or go spend time together as a family that evening. If you do happen to if you are a parent who went to Whitworth, who graduated from Whitworth, and you have a student who's graduating from Whitworth, we will have a short reception in the chapel just before that for President McQuilkin to just connect with the alumni parents of these students who are graduating. Baccalaureate and commissioning. Emilee, can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, baccalaureate and commissioning is the church service that they use to kick off Sunday morning, and that's organized by our campus ministry team and our dean of spiritual life, Forrest Buckner. They will give you much better information about it. I traditionally am getting ready for the commencement ceremony during that time, so I haven't been able to go for a number of years. But it's a service of prayer and celebration. You hear from a number of the graduates who will deliver prayers over the class and songs, and then they commission the grads. I believe Scott gives a charge to the class, a great commissioning, if you will, and sends them out into the world. And then as that service concludes, then families, it concludes right as the gates to the Pine Bowl open and right as grads need to head to their lineup areas. And so families can directly leave that and move either into finding their seats at the ceremony at 9 a.m. or sending their grad off to our field house for their lineup to get ready for the ceremony. And then we're into the actual commencement ceremony, and that will begin at 10 a.m. We're very prompt. We start on time. And so it starts at 10 a.m. on Sunday in our Pine Bowl. And that ceremony is traditionally a 2 to 3 hour ceremony. I know that's a big range that I give you, but we do that on purpose because it gets impacted by so many factors. The number of grads, other special awards that are being handed out during it, how long processionals and recessionals take. We traditionally run much closer to 2 hours, but I always want to give that extra time, the extra padding, so you don't create a lunch reservation or something too close and then get stuck. And after that ceremony, most of our grads and their families stick around for quite a while. The grads recess following the ceremony back into the loop, and they get to walk back through the Pinecone Arch. If you were here for move-in weekend with your student, you might have watched them walk through the Pinecone Arch for the first time. They get to walk back through it on their way out. And as you all know, the loop is a wonderful place to take pictures and to kind of say that official goodbye to those years of college. And so this is a great time afterwards. Most families stick around for a pretty significant amount of time, usually about an hour. Take photos and find friends. And it's also a great time for grads to return their gowns, which are rentals. And so even if we get done at noon with the ceremony, you probably want to plan on being around campus until closer to 1-ish.
That was true for both of my daughters, even in 2021 when their wasn't a lot of coalescing of large groups of people anywhere, we still stuck around for a good hour. So that's great. And this is a little bit off topic, but she mentioned the Pinecone Arch. This particular graduating class, as well as last year's graduating class, they're pooling their resources and potentially with some other classes as well to replace the Pinecone Arch, which currently is made from lumber. It's beautiful, but it also has to be, it's kind of a temporary structure that's pulled out for the crossover ceremony in the fall, and then again at commencement. They are hoping to replace it with a permanent structure. It's going to be a beautiful art installation. So that is their senior class gift. And some of your students may already be aware of that giving opportunity for them to contribute to that gift. One Pine Day, which is our annual day of giving, was just about 2 weeks ago, and students had an opportunity to contribute to that in any amount. So that will be presented throughout the weekend. Of course, this class won't benefit from the art installation right away. This is a project that's going to take a couple years. It's going to be a pretty significant undertaking, but I did want to point that out to you. Anything else about the commencement ceremony itself, Emilee, that you want to make sure that folks are aware of? And does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, if there's questions, happy to answer those. I can also give a little quick, brief kind of frequently asked questions if that is helpful about ceremony. But I'll launch into those, but please interrupt me if you have questions. We get asked every year about accessible seating, right? You might be bringing a variety of ages and abilities from your family and from your loved ones to this event. There's no need to get reserved seats for anyone who needs seating without stairs. We have 3,300 seats that we put on the field of the Pine Bowl that do not require any stairs. And so they are wheelchair accessible, they are walker accessible, they don't require any sort of stairs to get to. And so you don't need to reserve. Our goal has always been that families get to stick together. When we've hosted our commencement ceremonies in other locations, often accessible seating is apart from the rest of the seating, and then families have to divide. There's not enough room for everyone. We don't want to do that. We want you to spend the day together celebrating. And so we have ensured that there is ample seating on the field for families that have someone who can't navigate stairs, and ample seating for families who can navigate stairs. And you will receive more information about that, and your student will as well, about where to enter depending on which kind of seating your party needs. Also, if you have someone who has concerns about mobility, we reserve 3 parking lots exclusively for anyone who needs to be closer to the field because of mobility. And so those parking lots will be blocked off. They're protected. And so if you have someone, you can either drop them off there, or your family can park there if you have somebody who is in need of being closer to the field. We also run golf cart shuttles from those parking lots down to the field. We don't want anyone to have to walk too far. So if you're bringing someone with you who would benefit from a golf cart shuttle, we have those running all through the morning to get people down to the field. And then we also run them after the ceremony to get people back up to the parking area as well. So that is a service that is available during the weekend. No need to reserve it. It's just running constantly before the ceremony and constantly after the ceremony as well. I also get asked about parking a lot. We don't have enough parking on campus for it to be entirely unlimited so that every guest can bring their own car. So we do special parking passes over the weekend. Even students' regular parking passes don't work over the weekend. Every grad receives 2 special parking passes. They're these big red sheets of paper that the student will get, and it says it's a special commencement parking pass. They'll get those with their caps and gowns. And so your party will get to bring 2 vehicles on campus and so they'll have to put those red parking passes in their on the dash or someplace visible. So we know that that car is allowed to park on campus on Sunday only. We don't limit it the rest of the weekend, but Sunday especially. That's how many spaces we have available. If you have other cars, you're welcome to park off campus. There are lots of neighborhoods. If you have a student who lives off campus, maybe close. I know a lot of our grads choose to actually walk on over for the ceremony rather than bring a car. So carpool or plan to park off campus if you have more than 2 vehicles coming.
And I did just want to say that that QR code that you see there on the screen is for the commencement website. Really, honestly, pretty much anything that we've covered is going to be on that website. We're trying to filter and distill down to the things that we think may be top of mind for you. But click on that link. What's the URL? Is it just if they just Googled or searched Whitworth commencement, it's going to come up?
Yes, I would do that. I think it's a kind of a weird one that has like a slash event slash something else in it. I honestly, the way I get to it is that I get to it by Googling Whitworth University commencement, and that will take you straight to the landing page.
Great. Okay, and we have basically just one more slide left. There are things that happen after commencement. It's not just a ceremony and then everybody just leaves. There are elements that we want to make sure that you're aware of. These probably are things that are not going to be top of mind for your student. So it will be helpful to have somebody else in the party who is thinking along the lines of some of these bullet points here. Do you want to talk about them, Emilee?
Yeah. So we don't do printed programs at our commencement ceremonies anymore. They used to be just a red cover and white pages on the inside, and it was a name list and a list of the ceremony. And what we noticed is we printed thousands of those, and most of them ended up in the trash. So we don't do programs at the ceremony anymore. We have a digital one. So there'll be QR codes all over the Pine Bowl when you enter that you can scan and follow along on a mobile device during the ceremony. However, we do know that programs are incredibly important to remember the day. And so what we like better than a pre-printed program is a post-printed program. So your student will receive emails inviting them to order what we call our keepsake program. It is a full color magazine of the day. And so we have a photographer who turns around our photos incredibly quickly, and a great design team that actually creates a full color glossy magazine from the day that is our commencement program. And that will have the full listing of what happened, like the ceremony, as well as the name list with your students listing and photos of the actual day and of the actual event. And we've found that that's so much more meaningful than just a red cover and white paper. And those are free. Your student doesn't need to pay for those or do shipping or anything. All they have to do is they'll get an order link. They're going to go on, they're going to order their keepsake programs. And we will, once those are produced, we will package them and mail them to whatever address your student has indicated for you to keep. Also, often your student may not care about that right now, but we know you might care about that as a parent. So that would just be one thing to ping them on around ceremony time to remind them that you would like a copy of that program and to place that order. The second thing is professional photos. We have a professional photography company on campus all weekend, and they will take photos of the ceremony as well as photos of your grad as they cross the stage and shake Scott's hand, and also as they're exiting the stage. They make sure to have multiple shooters on site to take different shots. So if one doesn't turn out great, you should have a second option where they were able to get them. They've done this for a number of years for us. They're alums as well. And they have a very quick turnaround. I always say be ready in June to look at photos, but often they have them ready within like a week for families to view, and you can purchase those because they're a small local company. Their purchase prices are incredibly reasonable. When it's the large multinational group, the large national groups, they end up being very expensive. But because these are alums who love Whitworth, they do a beautiful job with the editing, and then they're fairly inexpensive. And your grad will also get links to that. We also have links to our professional photographer's website already on the commencement website. So if your grad forgets about it, you should be able to go access it as well. The third thing is regalia return. As I mentioned, we do a rental regalia program through Herff Jones. Everything is branded with Whitworth logos and seals on it. It's really beautiful. Really beautiful regalia, but it is rental. And so your student gets to keep their cap They can decorate it. They get to keep their cap, but they do have to return their gown following the ceremony. We will have people on site after the ceremony to take those gowns. The student just has to check it back in and get their name checked off the list. And then we also have someone in McEachran, which is our main administrative building at Whitworth, for the next couple days following the ceremony, also collecting regalia. So if the student forgets, it's not a big deal. They can bring it back the next couple days, but it does have to be back in by the deadline we tell them, because we actually have to package those all and ship them back to our vendor. So if they miss that deadline, there are some pretty hefty fees, because then we're on the hook for it. And Herff Jones also charges either a late return fee or a no return fee. So it is really, really important that your student turns that gown back in afterwards. The next thing, if you have a mid-year grad, they may have already gotten their diploma, but if you have a May grad or a summer grad, your student's diploma is sent to the address that your student put on their graduation application, which may not be their standard mailing address. We've encouraged students to say, if you have a parent who's going to have a good permanent address, or if you know a good permanent address after you graduate, you want to put that on your graduation application, because we know if they put where they're living at this moment, it might be, Whitworth Drive, and they probably won't be there for a few weeks after they graduate, or for a while after they graduate. So you may talk with your student now and encourage them to reach out to the registrar's office and ask what address they put on their grad app, and confirm that it's going to be one that's going to be good for a while. Diplomas are printed and mailed about 6 to 8 weeks after the student completes their degree requirements. They aren't handed out in person at the ceremony. We ship them later once their degree requirements are complete. So after your student has finished everything, then we print their diplomas for them, and then those are mailed out following that. So that is different for each student. If they did complete everything in May, then they typically would get it towards the end of June. But if they maybe are waiting on a requirement, or they have an incomplete grade, or they're finishing a final test for credit, they may not receive that diploma for quite some time until that requirement is complete and the degree has been conferred. And then just always a reminder to talk to your student about making sure their address is up to date. As Whitworth sends things, not just diplomas, but all kinds of things to them after they've completed their degree, they'll want to make sure they have a good file on address. And if your student is anything like me, when I completed college, I wasn't sure where I was headed. So sometimes mom and dad's or grandpa and grandma's permanent address might be the safest bet for a while until they feel like they've settled somewhere.
That's great. And in terms of regalia, it's just the gown that needs to be returned. I want to reiterate that students may have honor cords. They may have a stole that is part of a program that they participated in. Maybe they're military affiliated, or they're a student who have a parent that's an alum, and so they might have a legacy stole. There may be different types of regalia. I don't even know what you call the additional pieces besides the cap and gown, but they can keep their cap, they can keep their tassels, they can keep the tassels that go around their neck as well. So they're cords. And then finally, just a little bit of a reminder. Whitworth is in the process of making sure that we remove proxy access for parents who may have had it during their students' time at Whitworth. We didn't really have kind of an end date for that set up in the past, at least as I understand it. And so recently, networking department kind of contacted us in the alumni office, asking if we thought that parents expected to be able to continue to access their students' proxy if they were already set up as a proxy. And our sense is that most parents recognize that when their student is no longer here, that's not necessarily going to be a regular need. Your student can go back in and add you back as a proxy, though. So by default, we're going to be removing parents eventually from the system. But if your student wants you, as an alum, wants you to be able to continue to have proxy access to their financials, if maybe you're helping make payments, that kind of thing, there will be a process available for that, and the networking department can support that if you have some questions regarding that. I think I think that's it. Emily, did you have anything else that you want to make sure that families know about? And families, if you have any questions, thank you for hanging in here with us for the full hour. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I don't have anything else, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there's anything that we didn't address that you want to know about the weekend or the next couple of months for our seniors.
I like how the presentation changed the formatting on your email address there. Uh, Sorry about that. It is commencement at whitworth.edu if that's confusing at all. I'm just looking at that slide. Both of us can be reached at email addresses that go to a group. We both work in teams. And so we might not be the person who is going to respond to your phone call or your email necessarily if it's regarding commencement. But we work with incredible people who, if you get a call back from one of our teammates, you're still going to be in great hands. Thank you for joining us from Pakistan. That's amazing. That's so cool. Very cool. That's one really big benefit of being able to have meetings like this from, in the cloud. Online connection is still connection. So I will say that if you do end up here for commencement weekend in person, even if your student will no longer be on Whitworth campus on a daily basis, it would be my joy and honor to be able to get to meet you in person and to just thank you for entrusting them to our care for the 2 to 4 years that they've been here, some of them even longer than that. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today. And feel free, please, to reach out to those email addresses or those phone numbers with any questions. All right. Have a great day.
Bye.